Karelia, no narration, just the rock. The bedrock beneath you is 2 to 3 billion years old, one of the oldest exposed surfaces on Earth before fish, before trees, before almost everything you have ever known. From here, Russia opens outward. 60,000 lakes, 1/9 of all the land on Earth. But scale is not the point. The point is this: every place in Russia sounds different. This silence, here in Karelia, is only one voice. There are others. The journey moves from this silence down through the Volga corridor, into the depth of Baikal, 5,387 feet deep, 25 million years old, and onward to where sound becomes a roar. Kamchatka, 482 degrees Fahrenheit below the ground. What does that sound like? From Karelia's silence to Kamchatka's roar, Russia is not one landscape, and no two voices sound alike. Look close at the surface of the rock, not soil, not sand. This is Precambrian granite, 2 to 3 billion years old, among the oldest exposed rock on Earth. This surface existed before most complex life, before fish, before forests, before roads. This is Karelia, the place where Russia shows you what the world looked like before roads were invented. 60,000 lakes fill every depression the glaciers carved out roughly 12,000 years ago. Around 20% of the total area is open water. The boundary between lake and land is not clear. The granite has been eroded into a labyrinth of channels and peninsulas, so complex that navigating by boat here rivals a river delta for difficulty. Lake Ladoga alone covers 17,891 square miles. The largest lake in Europe, and it is only one of 60,000. From mid-May to late July, roughly 10 weeks, the sun does not fully set, white nights. At 11 in the evening, light skims the water at an angle it reaches nowhere else on Earth. Not golden, not red. Something in between, without a name, holding for hours without changing. Summer reaches 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Winter drops to 23. Then a common loon calls across a mirror-flat lake. No echo. The sound goes in and does not come back. The Karelian people eat kalitki, open-faced rye pastry filled with potato or barley, baked over wood fire. Food made from exactly what this nutrient-poor land can give. This is where Russia offers no explanation. It simply appears, larger than any word that tries to hold it, and quieter than anywhere you have ever stood. From this silence, water begins to find its way south, gathering itself into something larger, something that will carry the shape of Russia for the next 2,193 miles. Early morning, autumn fog sits on the surface of the Volga like a silver cloth. The far bank is barely visible. Birch and maple turning gold, but from this side, they are only pale shapes in the mist. The Volga at Yaroslavl is 1,640 feet wide enough that the far bank blurs in autumn mist, wide enough that a river cruiser heading south vanishes completely within minutes of leaving the dock. Autumn water temperature runs between 46 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. From December through March, the river freezes. Yaroslavl was founded in 1010 CE, over 1,000 years old, 168 miles northeast of Moscow. January averages 14 degrees. Fahrenheit summer reaches 77. This city has stood beside the river long enough to understand that the river does not belong to it. The river is only passing through. The counterintuitive fact, this river, 1,640 feet wide here, will reach 9,843 feet in width near Astrakhan to the south. The same river, almost unrecognizable. The Volga is not a river. It is a journey that a city can only mark, never stop. The Volga keeps moving south, toward a city where winter does not arrive gently. It arrives all at once, and that city has learned over centuries to receive it. January. Pre-dawn snow falling on the Moskva River embankment. Steady, not heavy. The flakes are small and dry, the kind that stack without sound on stone. The river surface runs dark under new snow. Ice forming at the edges, black water still moving in the center. The far bank is a line of bare linden trees, each branch holding a thin ridge of white-yellow park lights from Gorky Park, cast rings of warmth into the darkness, the halos doubling in the wet snow on the ground. Beneath those lights, the people of Moscow are skating. Moscow sits at 55.75 degrees north, the same latitude as Edinburgh, Scotland. But these two cities do not share a winter. The Atlantic warms, Edinburgh, Moscow has no ocean to lean on. January average temperature, 21 degrees Fahrenheit record low. Negative 44 degrees Fahrenheit snow covers the ground for 130 to 140 days each year. In January 2026, Moscow recorded 3.6 inches of snow, the snowiest month in 203 years. Gorky Park runs roughly 2 miles along the riverfront, and in January it does not close. It opens differently. The skating rink stretches along the embankment, the ice surface scraped clean in long arcs, the snow pushed to the edges in low gray walls. A city and its winter are inseparable, each one shaped by the other. Moscow cannot be Moscow in any other season. A few hundred steps east, on the hill above the river bend, the same winter light lands on something older, and the silence there has a different weight. "5 a.m. January. The square is entirely empty. Low fog drifts at knee height across the granite cobblestone. 73,000 square meters of open stone. Nothing to shelter behind, nothing to slow the wind. Temperature between 5 and 14 degrees Fahrenheit. The exposed stone surface creates a wind funnel. Temperature here drops faster than the surrounding streets. Footsteps echo off the walls with unusual clarity. Nothing absorbs the sound. Stone, wall, frost, everything reflects it back. The Kremlin wall runs along the full length of the western edge. Deep crimson going gray in pre-dawn light. The same stones, the same color, standing through 500 winters. At the southern end, St. Basil's Cathedral holds its ground. 8 domes in ochre, crimson, and green, the colors muted in this light but present, the way a voice is present even when it is not speaking. The word Krasnaya in Old Russian means beautiful, not red. This square was named before any political association existed. It was named for what it looked like. Ivan III built the first version of this space in the 15th century. A market, an execution ground, a place where the city gathered for everything it needed to witness. 5 centuries of coronations, executions, Soviet military parades, and 1 German teenager who landed a small plane here in 1987. Because the geometry seemed to invite it, UNESCO inscribed it in 1990. The square absorbed all of it without changing its dimensions by a single foot. In June, first light hits the east wall at 3:45 in the morning. The same stones, but an entirely different language. In summer, the square fills with tourists, street performers, and the daily rhythm of a city that uses this space the way cities use their living rooms. Every 9th of May, military columns move through in formation. Tanks, missiles, soldiers in dress uniform. The Victory Day Parade that has run on this ground since the Soviet era. The square briefly becoming what it was always designed to hold. Then the parade ends, and the tourists return. The Kazan Cathedral at the northern edge was demolished under Stalin and rebuilt in the 1990s. The same footprint, the same facade, reconstructed from photographs and memory. Stone, frost, and the long argument between what gets torn down and what gets put back. Only time and weather, repeated, until both become the same thing. March. For the first time since January, the Moskva River is releasing ice. Slow-moving chunks drifting eastward ledicode. Ice drift each piece large, unhurried. Winter does not end in a single moment. It releases itself in portions, day by day. March temperature ranges from 23 to 41 degrees Fahrenheit, still cold. The Kremlin wall runs 7,316 feet, following the exact contour of the hill beneath it. Height varies between 16 and 62 feet depending on the section. The enclosed area, 68 acres. That hill is a glacial moraine ridge, material deposited by retreating ice, rising 82 feet above the river. No one chose this location. Geology chose it. The river bend to the south, the steep western face, the high ground commanding 2 directions of water. The wall simply followed what the terrain had already drawn. Architecture and geology are the same thing. The gold domes inside catch the March light. The first light of the year strong enough to reflect clearly. Below the western wall, Alexander Garden runs 1,640 feet along the base. March is the first time in the year you can smell actual soil. Earth, not snow, not ice rooks, and jackdaws are calling in the linden trees. That is the first sound signaling winter's end. Not a thermometer, not a calendar, just the birds. May peak flood. From the high clay banks of Kazan, looking down. The Volga floodplain has become a shallow inland sea road. Access is cut. Residents move by flat-bottom boat. Birch trees stand half submerged. only their canopies above the waterline. Sandbars that rise and disappear week by week. This is where the Kama meets the Volga. The Kama at the confluence is 3,937 feet wide, larger than the Rhine, not a tributary, not a minor branch, one great river meeting a greater one. And the result is something a map cannot fully express. Two great rivers becoming one is not a line on a map. It is something you can watch. What you see from the high bank is not entirely natural. The Kuibyshev Reservoir, 2,490 square miles, the largest reservoir in Russia, was created by a dam built in the 1950s. The original river was narrower. This lake-like expanse is partly engineered. The things that look most natural are sometimes not. Winter drops to 3 degrees Fahrenheit. Summer reaches 82. This city is where two great cultures, Russian and Tatar, have lived beside each other long enough to produce something that is neither one entirely. Further south, the Volga encounters the only thing in 2,193 miles that has ever made it change direction, a mountain that refused to move. The silence here has a magnitude most people never experience. Not the absence of sound, but the complete absence of any human-made noise, for miles in every direction. Then the aurora begins. Green and violet curtains spread across the sky, not rays, not points, but the entire sky in motion. Below, a still lake reflects every contour. Exactly two skies, one above, one below. On the Kola Peninsula, above 70 degrees north, light itself becomes a season. The midnight sun lasts 62 days, polar night lasts 40. Aurora season runs from September through April. Winter temperatures range from 5 to negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit, wind chill reaching negative 40. Summer reaches 64 degrees Fahrenheit. The peninsula covers 38,600 square miles. The Kibani Mountains, highest peak 3,937 feet, sit near the center, high enough to hold snow when the surrounding lowlands have turned green. In late August, the tundra changes color, not brown and dry, not gray. Crowberry, bilberry, and dwarf birch turn deep scarlet and amber. Color so intense that no one anticipates it before seeing it. This is the real counterintuitive of Kola, not barren year-round. South again, toward the place where the Volga makes its final gesture, and nature responds with something no latitude should allow. Dawn, July. The drone flies 3 feet above the lotus surface. Pink flowers dense in every direction to the horizon. Not a few plants, not a small field. 123,550 acres of lotus. The largest lotus fields on Earth, larger than any in India or China, at 46 degrees north latitude, the same latitude as Lyon, France. The flowers open for only 4 to 5 hours each morning before closing again. The window from dawn to roughly 10 a.m. Those who arrive later see only green leaves, no flowers. This is the Volga's final gate. From a river 1,640 feet wide at Yaroslavl, it has grown to nearly 9,843 feet near here. And now it breaks apart into more than 500 main channels, more than 1,000 smaller ones, spreading across the largest river delta in Europe. No solid ground, only water, reed, bird, and sky. 307 bird species inhabit the Volga Delta. 116 nest here. Dalmatian pelicans, among the world's rarest large birds, nest in significant numbers. White-tailed eagles patrol overhead. Flat-bottom boats move through channels 10 to 13 feet wide, flanked by 10-foot reed walls on both sides. Summer reaches 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Winter drops to 14. Local people dry vobla, Caspian roach, salted and sun-dried on outdoor racks. No cooking, no added spice, only fish, salt, and the delta sun. The food that the Volga has sustained people with here for centuries. The end of a river is not a diminishment, it is an explosion. A few miles further, the Volga completes what it began 2,193 miles ago and releases everything into a sea that has been waiting alone for 5.5 million years. Dusk. This is the exact point where the final delta channel thins and the Caspian opens. The color of the water changes in front of you, the brown of the river shifting to the gray-green brackish of the sea. No map needed, no coordinates. The boundary is visible to the naked eye, rose and violet sky reflected in mirror-flat water. The Caspian Sea covers 143,000 square miles. The world's largest inland body of water, not a lake in the conventional sense, but not a sea connected to any ocean either. It has been completely isolated from every ocean on Earth for 5.5 million years. Salinity, 1.2%, compared to 3.5% of a true ocean. The Volga contributes roughly 80% of the water that flows into the Caspian 2,193 miles, and most of it passes through here. With no ocean to compensate, the Caspian regulates its own water level through evaporation and rainfall. Since the 1990s, the water level has dropped approximately 10 feet nowhere. To replenish from, no tides, no connection, only sky above and bedrock below. In the shallow estuarine flats, flamingos wade through mud in the late afternoon light. Hundreds of thousands of migratory birds stop here along the Central Asian flyway, spring and autumn every year, regardless of the shifting water level. The Caspian beluga sturgeon once produced the most prized caviar on Earth. Now critically endangered, what people once ate as a normal part of coastal life is nearly gone. Summer reaches 93 degrees Fahrenheit, winter drops to 23. This is the end of a continent's water, a river that has traveled 2,193 miles, finally letting go. But Russia does not end at its southern waters. Further east, much further, nature stops flowing and starts standing still for millions of years at a time. September, late afternoon. The drone banks along the Katon River Gorge, larch burning gold on both sides, the river running turquoise green below above. Belukha Summit, 14,783 feet. Glaciers, covering 173 square miles. Summit temperature negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. This is the Altai. 4 worlds stacked on top of each other in a single frame. The first layer, the Chuya Steppe, At 6,234 feet elevation, near zero rainfall, a high-altitude semi-desert, looking more like Central Asia than Siberia, dry sun. Cold wind valley summer, reaching 77 degrees Fahrenheit valley, winter dropping to -22. The second layer, autumn larch forest burning gold, Siberian pine, fir, larch, birch. The Katon River runs 373 miles through it, turquoise green from glacial sediment, before joining the Ob system flowing to the Arctic Ocean. The third layer, alpine meadow and open ridgelines above the tree line. This is where the Altai argali live, the world's largest wild sheep, standing on wind-exposed ridges in September and October. The fourth layer, glacier and sky mountain, pass temperatures in summer, 41 degrees Fahrenheit. A single raindrop falling on Belukha's summit will travel 3,107 miles before reaching the Arctic Ocean. West of the Altai, on a different range entirely, something stands higher and has been standing there frozen for 2.5 million years. Elbrus, 18,510 feet, the highest summit in Europe. A volcano dormant for 2.5 million years, with glaciers covering 357 square miles across its twin summits. At June sunrise, the double summit catches the first light while the valley below remains in shadow. White snowfields against deep blue sky. The cable car reaches 12,631 feet, and from there it is ice and nothing else. From the summit on a clear day, the curvature of the Earth is visible to the naked eye. The climber stands above approximately 50% of Earth's atmosphere. Air above 16,400 feet is nearly odorless, thin, dry, and so neutral it feels less like breathing air and more like breathing space itself. Summit temperature drops from 5 to -22 degrees Fahrenheit, with wind chill reaching -58. Base camp in summer sits at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. On the rocky slopes below the snow line, between 9,800 and 13,100 feet, the Caucasian tour lives. A wild mountain goat endemic to the Caucasus, found nowhere else on Earth. It stands on cliff faces with the unhurried ease of something that finds altitude entirely normal. The mountain people of the Caucasus eat khinkal, boiled dough dumplings served with garlic walnut sauce. Heavy, warm food for people who live, where cold is not an occasional condition, but a permanent one. How thin the line between sky and ground can get, Elbrus shows you. But no glacier on Earth is older, deeper, or quieter than what lies to the east, 25 million years old, and still. February, pre-dawn. The drone flies 3 feet above the ice surface, a fracture line extending to the far shore, electric blue against pale white. Through the transparent ice below, methane bubbles, frozen mid-rise, visible clearly from above. This is Baikal. 20% of all unfrozen surface fresh water on Earth held in a single lake. 5,387 feet deep, 25 to 30 million years old, 12,248 square miles in area. Baikal resists freezing until early January, not because of a mild climate, but because of its sheer thermal mass. A lake 5,387 feet deep stores enough summer heat to hold off the Siberian winter for weeks, longer than any surrounding landscape under ice water temperature year-round. 34 to 37 degrees Fahrenheit ice surface winter temperature, -4 to -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Lying flat on the ice at dawn, pressing your face to the surface, you see bubbles, cracks, green algae suspended below. Ice averages 3 feet thick, maximum over 6, transparent enough to look like glass. In late winter, deep resonant cracking booms travel miles across the ice surface, the sound of the lake expanding and contracting with temperature. More than 1,000 endemic species inhabit Baikal, 75% of all the lake's fauna, 350 endemic amphipod species, 27 of 52 fish species found nowhere else on Earth among them, the Baikal seal. The world's only exclusively freshwater seal. In February and March, females give birth in snow layers on the ice surface. Pups increase their body weight 5-fold during 2 to 2.5 months of nursing. Adult seals dive beyond 656 feet following Golomyanka, a transparent, scaleless, endemic oil fish that lives in the lightless depths. In winter, the ice surface becomes something else, a place to walk, to drive, and to hear the lake speak. Stillness can have a depth that nothing else on Earth can match. Deeper than Baikal, in time, not depth, there is a place where water did not freeze on the surface. It froze all the way down. 1,969 feet down, and inside it, something has been waiting for 48,000 years. The helicopter drops through fog, and suddenly, the canyon appears below no road, reaches the valley of geysers. None ever has. The only access is by helicopter, and even helicopters depend on the weather. 4,163 miles from Moscow, the farthest point on this entire journey. Early morning cold air making steam plumes expand dramatically against dark volcanic rock, 90 geysers in a 4-mile canyon. The tallest column, 98 feet, catching the first morning light underground temperature, 482 degrees Fahrenheit, at 1,640 feet of depth. Geysernaya River cut into the roof of an active hydrothermal system and opened a pressure valve. That is why this valley exists. The air, sharp sulfur mixed with damp volcanic earth. The ground, warm silica terraces near the springs, loose volcanic gravel on the slopes, soft wet mud at the geyser rims. In 2007, a landslide buried most of the valley under rock and mud. Many geysers re-emerged, some in new locations. The landscape is still shifting. Kamchatka has 29 active volcanoes and 300 total Kronotsky reserve covers, 4,408 square miles. Summer valley temperatures reach 59 degrees Fahrenheit, while near the fumaroles, air temperature reaches 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Below the valley, the river runs cold and fast. A Kamchatka brown bear stands motionless in the current, still enough to look like it is sleeping. Then it lunges a salmon mid-leap, and the bear takes it from the air. August and September are the salmon run season at Karelia Lake. Kamchatka king crab, boiled on the dock, nothing added. The seafood of a place where the Pacific Ocean and active volcanoes share the same coastline. This journey began with 3-billion-year-old silent rock in Karelia. Karelia, the same rock, the same light, the same silence. But you have heard everything between here and Kamchatka, and now this silence sounds different. Not because it changed, it has not changed at all, but because you have heard the roar. You have stood where the earth boils beneath your feet. You have watched two rivers refuse to become one. You have seen the curvature of the earth. You have heard ice speak in the dark. And now you are back here, with this rock, 3 billion years old, still not saying anything a history book would write down. The answer is not any one of those things. The answer is the distance between this silence and that roar. Which voice of Russia stayed with you the longest? Karelia's silence or Kamchatka's roar? Thank you for traveling with us through every mile of this journey. Your time means everything to us. God bless your family, and God bless every journey you take. If this journey touched your heart, share it with your family, your friends, anyone who deserves to experience this. Subscribe and join us for the next one. We have special gifts waiting for you down the road.